They say the mountains never forget, that when something dies out there in the hollers, it doesn't really go away, it just waits. Watching. Listening. I used to think stories like these were just folklore, campfire chatter meant to scare kids and keep tourists off old family land. But I've spent too many nights digging through the dirt of people's stories, not just the ones they tell, but the ones they're afraid to say out loud. What I've learned is that some truths are darker than fiction. My name is Dr. Bonechill. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to warn you. What you're about to hear is not a gift. It's not a thrill. It's a burden, something that's been clawing at the edge of memory, begging to be let out. These are 3 very creepy true encounters from Appalachia, stories that have been shared with me in whispers, sometimes in tears, and always with a look in the eye like something still isn't over. Have you ever touched something that seemed harmless, but later, it felt like it was touching you back? Stick with me if you dare, and before we descend into the first tale, do me a small favor. If you're enjoying these dark corridors of truth, hit that like button. Subscribe so we can reach 10,000 brave souls who dare walk with us into the shadows. And if you've seen something, felt something, leave a comment below. This is Dr. Bonechill, and here is our first true story. Story 1. The Whittler's Box. I never believed in haunted objects. I thought people blamed things because it was easier than blaming themselves. I used to tell my wife that the only thing cursed in this world is regret, the stuff we bury under the floorboards of our own minds. But that was before the box. I grew up in a modest neighborhood in eastern Kentucky, Pine Ridge. You probably haven't heard of it. It's quiet, spaced out, tucked between a curve in the Red River and a mountain that never got named. My wife Rachel and I moved back there after my mother passed in late 2022. I inherited the house. 1-story cracked foundation, old oak trees around the property that seemed older than the sky. We weren't struggling, but we weren't thriving either. I worked construction when I could, odd jobs when I couldn't. Rachel taught 3rd grade. We kept to ourselves. One evening in early October, I was helping clear out Mom's attic. Decades of storage, musty air, the smell of old books and mothballs. When I found it, a small wooden box no bigger than a shoebox. Hand-carved, dark cherry wood, smooth as glass. On top, etched into the lid, was a figure, a man, I think, sitting under a tree, whittling. His face was simple, almost childlike, but the knife in his hand was sharp. You could feel it, even in the wood. I opened it. Inside was nothing but dust, and a single curled shaving of wood. You know, the kind that curls up when you carve something. Paper thin, almost perfect. It didn't seem valuable, but something about it. I don't know. It felt familiar. I brought it downstairs, cleaned it off, and set it on the fireplace mantel. That was the first mistake. That night, I heard tapping. At first, I thought it was just the house settling. Old homes make noises, but this was rhythmic. Tap, tap, scrape. Tap, tap, scrape. Like someone was carving wood in the next room over. I checked everything. Front door, back door. Nothing. Rachel was asleep. But when I walked past the living room, I swore I saw the box move. Not much. Just a slight turn, like it had shifted toward the hallway. I didn't sleep. The next day, I decided I'd imagined it. Tossed the box in the back closet. Out of sight, out of mind. But the tapping came back. Stronger. Closer. This time it was right outside our bedroom door. I opened it fast. Nothing there. Except, on the hallway floor, a new wooden shaving. Longer than the one in the box. I didn't tell Rachel. I wanted to be rational. I wanted this to make sense. But each night after that, the tapping returned. Sometimes I'd find the box outside the closet. Once, it was at the foot of our bed, and the shavings kept appearing. Curl by curl, like someone was whittling in secret. Then one night, Rachel screamed. I rushed into the bathroom. She was standing there, pale as death, staring at the mirror. On her cheek, a shallow cut, thin, clean, like it had been made by a blade. I felt something, she whispered. A touch, cold. Then, it burned. We left the house for the night, stayed in a motel down the highway. The next morning, I returned to burn the box. I didn't care if it was cursed or not. I just wanted it gone. But when I opened the closet, it wasn't there. It was back on the mantel, and this time, the figure carved on the lid had changed. He was looking up now. The knife was buried in his thigh, and his face, his eyes, looked afraid. I took it out back, doused it in lighter fluid and lit it. The fire hissed, the wood screamed, it screamed. I swear on my life. And in the ashes, when it was all done, was a third wooden shaving. We moved a month later. Haven't spoken of it since. But sometimes when I'm working late, I hear it again. Tap, tap, scrape, like something's still carving. Like the box wasn't the thing, but just the beginning. And every time I hear it, I think of that poor man under the tree. What was he trying to carve before it turned on him? Story 2. The Mirror from Clay Ridge. Now our second story takes us just a little deeper into the hollers. And this time, it's not just the past that refuses to stay buried. It's something else, something that wants to be found. Didn't grow up around death. It wasn't until my father passed that I realized how tightly silence wraps around grief. How a house full of memories can suddenly feel like a trap door, just waiting for you to step in. He died in 2021. Heart attack. Quick, cold, no goodbyes. I inherited his place, an old clapboard house on a hillside near Clay Ridge, West Virginia. Unassuming, dusty, and filled with the kind of silence that hums louder at night. I didn't want to stay, but I couldn't quite leave either. Part guilt, part inertia. So I took a leave from work and stayed the winter there. I was sorting through the attic one afternoon when I found the mirror. It was wrapped in thick wool cloth, stashed behind some broken lamps and a dented steamer trunk. Not large, maybe 2 feet tall, framed in faded brass that had turned green with age. The glass was fogged, dirty, warped around the edges. But the strangest part? There was something etched into the glass. From the inside, it was faint, like someone had used the edge of a needle to scratch a shape just beneath the surface. I could only see it when the light hit right. It looked like an eye, one single eye. I probably should have left it up there, but I didn't. I brought it down and wiped it off, propped it on a shelf in the hallway, just to see if I could restore it later. That night, I woke to a sound I hadn't heard since childhood. Breathing. Not mine. Not anyone else's. Just soft, steady breathing coming from the hallway. I sat up, the room was cold, freezing, my breath fogged. I listened, and then I heard the floorboards creak. I got up, opened the door, and saw myself. Not a person, not a shadow, just me, standing there in the mirror. But here's the thing. I wasn't moving. My reflection was still, just staring back. And the etched eye in the glass, it was open, wider than before. I blinked. The reflection didn't. It took me a full minute to step away, to shut the door. I told myself it was a trick of light, fatigue, grief, whatever. But I couldn't explain why I locked my bedroom door afterward. The next morning I went to move the mirror back to the attic, but it was gone. It was in the living room, propped against the wall, just above the cold air return. No one else was in the house. I touched it again. I don't know why. Something about the glass felt warm. Too warm. That night, the dreams started. In them, I was inside the mirror, trapped in that cold brass frame, watching someone else live my life. someone who wore my face, but not my eyes. And the longer the dream went, the more I forgot which side I was on. I'd wake up gasping, drenched in sweat, convinced that I wasn't me anymore, that I'd been switched, traded. I called a local antiques dealer in town, tried to describe it. He didn't let me finish. "Don't bring that here," he said, voice flat. "If it's got the watcher's eye, it ain't meant to be owned." I asked what he meant. Silence. Then, "They say there's a glass that remembers, a mirror that sees. Folks used to pass it around back in the day. Always ends up back where it started." I hung up. That night I covered the mirror with an old tarp, stuck it in the basement, and locked the door. But the breathing came back. Stronger. Closer. And when I finally dared peel the tarp back again, the eye was gone. In its place was a handprint from the inside of the glass. I drove it to the woods the next day, way past county lines into the hills where the trees grow twisted and the sky feels wrong. I buried it 6 feet down and didn't look back. But I still see myself differently now. Catch glimpses of things that aren't quite right. My reflection lingers too long. Sometimes it smiles before I do. And every once in a while, late at night, when the power flickers and the wind hits the eaves just right, I hear something whisper. Not words, just breath, like something just on the other side of the glass waiting for me to look. Just a second too long. Dr. Bonechill, low, steady. 2 objects, 2 stories, and 2 lives, never quite the same again. Are you ready for the third encounter? Because the next one, it comes from the deepest part of Appalachia. And it's not just a story about fear. It's about obsession, about the kind of hunger that doesn't stop once it's tasted something real. Story 3. The Ledger. This last story, it came to me from a man who spoke with a tremble in his voice, like the words were trying to claw their way out. He didn't give me his real name. He just said, "Call me Isaac." And what happened? To him, well, it starts with a book. They say you can't buy your way into heaven, but I think you can borrow your way into hell. My name's Isaac. I grew up near the border of Tennessee and North Carolina, in a spot most maps don't even name. My family ran a general store passed down 3 generations. Everything cash only. No nonsense, the kind of place where you could buy moonshine in the back and a loaf of bread up front. After my father passed, I took it over. Kept the lights on, kept the shelves stocked, and tried to keep the memories at bay. The place had always felt heavy, like it carried more than just history. Some nights I'd hear footsteps between the aisles, soft and sure, even when the place was locked up tight. But I chalked it up to grief, to being alone too long with your thoughts. Then, one summer, I found it. It was tucked away behind a loose panel in the storage room, buried under a broken crate of rusted tools. A small, leather-bound ledger, real old. No title. The pages were thick, yellowed, smelled of mildew and something sweeter, like burnt molasses. At first glance, it was empty. Just rows and rows of blank lines with columns marked name, date, and amount. But as I flipped through it, I found one entry, just one. M. Colvin, 1912. 1 soul, no currency. No explanation. Just a name, a year, and a price. I should have left it there. Should have burned it. But something about it clung to me, like it wanted to be seen. That night, I took it home and left it on my kitchen table. At 3:11 a.m., I woke up to the sound of pencil on paper. When I walked into the kitchen, the ledger was open. A pencil lay beside it, still rolling slightly. A new name had been added. Mine. I. Garrison, 2023. 0.00. No amount. Just my name, my year. 0 value. It felt like a cruel joke, like it was mocking me. The next day, things got strange. Business boomed. People I hadn't seen in years came in with full wallets. One woman bought out all my canned goods in cash. Another dropped $400 on old fishing lures. At the end of that week, I had made more money than I had in the last 2 years combined, but then came the debts. One man, Donnie Hark, came in asking if I still let folks run a tab. I hadn't in years, but something about the way he asked made me say yes. He borrowed 100. Came back the next day, eyes wild, asking to borrow more. This went on for a week. I recorded it all in the ledger. Something told me to write it there. And that's when the whispers started. Not loud, not clear, just murmurs, echoes behind the walls. Sometimes they'd say his name. Sometimes they'd say mine. Donnie disappeared on the 7th day. Gone. No trace. All that remained was his debt. And the ledger? The amount beside his name had changed from $300 to 1 soul. After that, people started coming to me, asking for favors, quick loans, quiet help. I always said yes, always wrote it down, and every time someone vanished, I'd check the book. Their debt always settled at 1 soul. I didn't know what I'd found. A curse? A contract? Some kind of spiritual loan shark? But the power in that book was real. You could feel it, buzzing through your bones like a wire just shy of electrocution. I tried to burn it. I did. It wouldn't light. I tried burying it deep in a gravel pit. Next morning, it was back on my table, open to the next blank page, and every time I look, the next name is already half written, like it knows who's next. Last week, I saw something I can't explain. My name, Isaac Garrison, was scratched out, and beneath it, a new line. Dr. Bonechill, 2025. Pending, so if you're hearing this, maybe the book's found you too. Dr. Bonechill, quiet, thoughtful. Some truths are better left uncovered. But once you've seen them, once they've touched you, they never really let go. These were 3 very creepy true encounters from the Appalachian dark, and I shared them not to entertain you, but to warn you. If you've made it this far, then you're part of something now. A listener, a witness, maybe even a chapter in the next story. Like this video if you felt something. Subscribe to help us reach 10,000 souls brave enough to walk these trails. And share your own story in the comments below, if you dare. I've been Dr. Bonechill. And until next time, keep one light on, just in case.